Alright, so today we're going to make one of the most unneeded overkill modifications to the Road Glide. So if you've ever been in the car audio world, you know exactly what I'm doing right here. This is the ground wire. I removed the original and installed this much larger ground. Comes up right in there. Now, the other end of the ground is this. This is the original ground wire. I shortened it. So now this will go on the stud on the frame. This is the end that originally went to the battery. And this is the end that went to that stud. I didn't want to cut this, and in case I need it for future use, I'm just gonna double these up, essentially looping it back to itself. And this will be the end that goes on the battery. So it's short enough that it'll go to the top of the battery. The awesome part about the Harley batteries is they have two holes for screws. They have the top one and the side one. So the much larger wires are gonna go directly to the side, and then the original style are going right back on the top. Now let's take a look at the power wire. This is the main power wire to the starter. The original one is bent, so I bent this new end that I put on here. Don't have the original power wire over here to compare for size. If you look, this end here had two wires coming out of it. This now just has the one wire that will run directly to the main fuse. On the positive side of the battery, we're doing the same thing that we're doing with the ground. We're separating it. This will go directly to the starter, and this will go to the rest of the motorcycle. I debated upgrading this one too, making this much larger, but the problem is I don't know if I could ever get this unique style of connect. It's a different style of blade connector to fit in the base. So to make this happen, I had to pull this entire tray out of here. These are all the original parts that go into there. Here is the fuse connector that sticks through the plastic. All of this hangs out under the cover. It just takes a little bit of cutting, patience, pulling the connectors out. It's not a big deal. This will all go back the way it was, but to get the power wire done, you needed to remove all that. So besides this ground wire already being done, I'll show you what else I'm gonna do for this here. This is the main ground. This is the chassis ground right here. We're gonna put this cable that I made on there. Maybe should have put this on before the big one. The big one's kind of in the way. Damn it. Trying to get this down here is a pain in the butt. Okay, so once I got that started on there, this is the way it needs to sit on the battery. So I'm just gonna tighten it up now. Oh, I forgot to record this. This little cover goes on here. This wire goes back in here with a little release tab up. And this is where your fuse sits when it's right here. So this should be plenty to get to the battery. Probably a little too much, or a little bit too much, but whatever. Now it's time to run the positive. We're gonna hook it back to, I'm gonna run it through here and then leave the rest exposed while I'm sticking the starter back on. Alright, so we just need to make sure the belt stays out of the way of the starter. When we're putting it in, shouldn't have any problem getting past it. There's plenty cut out here. And you can just set it on top and twist and push in. Okay, that should keep the starter up in there. Alright, starter's tight. Now we can put this larger cable in. I'm going to run it the opposite way, maybe. So I know it's going in the right hole. Okay, that'll come up there. This goes down here on this stud. There. Perfect. This knot back on there. Now everything else that we've done has all been standard. This though is metric. The size is 12 millimeter. That's on. You can plop that rubber back down so it looks like it's stock. So if you look at the cable, I put protection on it, like a protective sheathing that you can slip on, and then it actually heat shrinks, and it's like a wear item. So it'll, if that rubs, because my intention was it to sit down on the starter right here and hook to the battery, so there's plenty of free play. All right. All the power is back in. First thing I'm going to do is clip all this stuff back in here. So these all run through here. Start with the biggest one first. Get that there. Then this one. This one goes to the BCM. This one goes to the alarm. the actual siren. Any dealer that says, oh yeah, we already installed that for you, no, they didn't. It was it's into the factory wiring harness. That actually sits right there and gets zip tied around that. I'll get you guys a better shot of this, but we got a chafed wire. Luckily it's not through yet, but it runs to this, runs to the BCM. Huh. I'll show you this. There's a bunch of nicks and wear in this wire harness. There's a bunch of nicks in this wire. Must be debris from coming off the belt. Chafing, obviously because it's rubbing against something. That could be a potential failure. So there's a spot over here that this large wiring harness zips to. We'll put that in when it's on that side. This here, this BCM harness runs through here. I think we got everything through. We get those tightened up and we can install the rest of this back in after we get all of this zip tied. I'll get a better shot inside. We can see where this wire harness sits, see why it's chafing maybe. I'm sure it has to do with the belt, but it should be all the way up into here where this gets zip tied. So it should try to keep it out of the way. Now all this is zip tied here again. Keep it away from the belt. So into this hole right here, out, back in, and that will keep that harness tight. If you notice where the chafed wire is, that would be rubbing right up against the battery. One that I missed here that needed to go back through. So this one right here had to come through here and just back into this area here. This should be from the tail lights. This is the security siren. I actually purchased this for my 2016 Street Glide, took it off there and put it on my 2019. This is pretty simple. Just push it in. This little clip should go up. This one here, this little wire that normally sits here, if you don't have it, just goes in here. There's that. And then according to Harley's instructions, it's supposed to run down the frame here. I think this also does like the pager thing. That's what the antenna is for, but I don't have that. This here is for the BCM as well as this. We'll get that put in next. This will sit in here like this. If you haven't seen this connector before, these are pretty commonplace nowadays. Pins on it, you need to line up, be in this way. Yep. So then these lugs here, when you clip this down, that just locks it securely. Goes in here like this. BCM just slides in here, just like that. All right, this one here, I messed up. When I pulled it off, I had trouble getting it out and it tore it. This one goes to the power vision up front. So this just plugs in here. There's not enough room here for it. It just lays in here. This, the cover just goes on. And you're done. And you can do a better job of tucking this wire away than I am. All cleaned up later. But yeah, that's everything back, everything reassembled. I'm not gonna put the fuse back in yet. That job is done. That is a simple way to upgrade your wires with these bigger battery cables, like welding cables. And if you look at the factory cable, it actually says welding wire on it. Okay, so here's our end result. This one on top, that is the one that goes to the chassis. That one right there is the one that goes to the transmission. Over here, the one on the front is the one that goes to the starter. This one here is the one that runs to your main fuse. With that done, I should have probably cut this a little bit shorter and put a new end on there, but it was already built. They run down, there is nice little pocket holes here that they can run in the cable, so they almost go like directly down. It works out mint. Ask me any questions you might have, and I'll try to help you if I can. All right, that's it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching, guys. And remember, at Big Twinkie, we build it to ride.